Welcome, everyone, to the show. We've got an amazing show today. We had the biggest BTC run in over a year since February of last year. Big pump. We're at 41,406. We pushed all the way to 41,800. And Mr. FOMO, first of all, before I go to you, please hit the likes. Please subscribe. And Mr. FOMO, you deserve a big clap because you called a big run this week. And we want our viewers to know that if they were watching the show and they listened to you, they'd be doing amazing right now because you called this last week. I was timid when we went down to 36. I thought we could go back down. I did think eventually we'd get up, but you called it. It's got to feel good to see that run today.
Yeah, it does feel good. I was a little timid too. I still left some dry powder on the side. And I feel like that's a good play anyway, no matter how you're doing it. Even if you are saying that you're aggressive, make sure that you leave a certain percentage there just in case.
No financial advice, but
right.
But great entertainment advice.
Right. But it just comes down to really who you listen to and what you believe. We had come to the end of what was basically the average of the non-bear cycle down runs. I think it was somewhere around 90 something days, and we were getting pretty close to that. So and on top of that, I think 86% of February's are in the green. So I don't think I thought it was going to be this high by now, but it certainly feels good to make that call and see it turn green that way. It was definitely,
and we broke that 39.6 resistance, and once we broke it, BTC didn't have a lot of problems.
But that was something that you were pointing out, and I want our viewers to know that you were pointing out that 39.6 was a big deal, and once it broke through that, it took off.
Yeah, and now the alts are slowly starting to catch up. And again, don't worry if you haven't gone in. Again, entertainment advice. There's still some great values out there, and so I think we're gonna have to wait and see how this holds. I'm going to say this: if we are above 42 next week, by the end of next week, we could be much higher. But let's just say, as a gauge, if we're above 42, I think that's an amazing sign. The longer we stay above 40, I think healthy-wise, I think the more likelihood we're headed to 50. And 50 is, we talked about 40 being a psychological barrier, and you're starting to see some people get excited. You get to 50, then the FOMO comes in. That's where you come in, Mr. FOMO.
Where I used to come in.
Yeah, but you're gonna get a lot of people that left. It's kind of like a game where your team is trailing by 21, and you leave the game early and you come back. You're walking to your car and you realize, oh no, we're down by 3, and you try to get back in. Sometimes they let you in, sometimes they don't. But I think if we were to get to 50 this month, and I'm not predicting we will, there's still a long way to go. You're definitely going to have a leg up. Who knows how far the leg will go, but 50 is a huge number. But for now, I'm looking at 42, 43. If we can hold that next week, I think that would be gigantic. And I think at that point, it becomes very hard to get back down to 32 for now. Now, I'm not talking about ever, but for now, I think the 32 becomes difficult because that's the spot, a lot of people thought we would get to.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think if we hold, if we break through those levels and hold above there, I think we're doing really well. Again, I don't see any parabolic jumps coming in the future. I don't see anything out there that's screaming that something big is happening right now. But again, anything could happen. Like you said, if we get a few young millionaires that decide they want a piece of the action, and they jump in, or institutional money that jumps in a little bit heavier, anything can happen. But I like the way it's going, and you're right. I don't see it breaking back down. If I would be worried if we broke back down below that 39.6 level again.
Now, even if we did, I'll say this from my perspective. Remember in the summer, we went up to 40 and went all the way back down to 29. We built support and went all the way back up. We had like a mini pump in that. So I wouldn't lose faith. I'm not saying I hope it happens. I'm prepared either way, the way I've strategized, but I would not lose faith if we went back down, because I think one, the people that wish they had bought at 32 BTC would be jumping in. We're getting a lot of the wallets of BTC are actually increasing, and it's the retail. Yes, we have whales that still control price action, but as time goes on, I think we're going to get more and more younger buyers that are long-term holders. That's what the data is showing. And so I think if we did go down to the 30s, there would be a lot of support moving forward. So I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. I'm not predicting it'll happen. We're just gonna have to see if this 40 holds. Now, if we go sideways and we stay above 40, the alts will probably be fine. The alts are starting to show a little bit of strength. So if people are comfortable that we're not headed back down next week, I think you will see some non-financial advice, some pretty good alt action actually.
And
Remember, BTC doesn't have to constantly be going up for the alt to do well. If people feel safe that BTC is not dumping, there's going to be more money coming in, and the prices are still good. The prices are still good. Maybe not as good as when we went down to 32, but there's some great action. We're going to start today with our flips, and this is one that just got into Voyager and recently got into crypto.com flow. And you're aware of this because you've looked at the NBA top shots and the NFL starting. And one of your favorite projects, Rarible, is working with Flow now. And Flow, barely 2 billion market cap. And this is kind of the first time that they've been on exchanges. I mean, they're on Kraken, but and they're on KuCoin, but in terms of US exchanges with KYC, it's kind of a big deal. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, if we are indeed in a recovery, I mean, it was actually a better price, believe it or not, last week when I told you this before the show. You were a bit surprised. Even before the pump, we were at 729, and now we're at 656. So even the fact today we've gone up almost 9%, it was actually higher before. Earlier this month, we were at 925, and then all-time high. Listen to this, 44.6. And like I said, 2 billion market cap is low. The volume is really increasing, 83. And actually for alts, that's not bad at all, because like I said, for the alts, people have been a little more hesitant compared to the BTC pump. So I like it a lot. Again, we always say this, everything is predicated on BTC. So you got to watch BTC, because if BTC backtracks down to the 30s, you're going to be holding for much longer than a week or 2 weeks likely. But I'm confident that Flow, if we go sideways next week, I'm confident 7 is very realistic. I'm being very conservative here. What do you think?
I think, and like you said, with the new exchanges and Coinbase not being too far behind, probably you're looking at least the Coinbase pump at some point in the near future. And it's something I wanted to circle back to with the market as well. When you look at some of these altcoins and you think about a bear market, and you think about the bear markets of before, and you think about how far they've fallen off, some of these coins have fallen off quite a bit. I mean, some of these coins have fallen off 75% of their all-time highs, some of them more. And you start to think, could we actually be in sort of a new kind of bear, or could we be in a new kind of trend? When you start to look at some of these and you see how far they've fallen, it really does look like the same percentages of bears in the past. And you mentioned something earlier today when we were talking that, well, we never got our altcoin season. And I said, well, April and that early part of May, we did get a pump, but maybe the market was just so spread out that it didn't look like any of the pumps of the past, any of the altcoin seasons of the past. And so I'm wondering if maybe not only are we in sort of a bear or coming out of sort of a bear, maybe all of these cycles, all of these different things that we've talked about in the past, maybe that's all broken now, and we're going to see something completely different.
It might be, and maybe we will get another bull run after the next halving, and we're kind of in a middle state. No one knows for sure.
Right.
But I think if BTC is kind of ping-ponging We talked about this between the 30 and 60 range. I'm not saying it's not going to go above 60. I'm not saying it's not going to, I'm not going to below 30. Although I continue to say if it goes below 30, you have massive buying opportunities for people that want to buy. There are so many
You won't
people.
beat the bots.
Yeah, if BTC, unless there's some amazing world events, we're talking about major wars, BTC in the 20s are just going to get bought up. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's kind of, I
There are
look
so
at
many
30 as kind of a
participants
baseline.
at 32 and 31, and that's what we saw recently, was that there was so much strength there that it just couldn't get past it. But
Yeah, and
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we're going to get to my flip today. It's an old
Of
friend of
course.
the show. They even sent some
All right.
over to Mr. FOMO. StormX. It's a shopping app that uses crypto and gives you crypto cash back. It's one of my favorites because even in this down market or this bear market or whatever, this huge downturn that we've had over the last 8 or 9 weeks, if you had your StormX on Voyager, which is pretty much the only major exchange that you can get it on, if I'm not mistaken, you'd be getting 2% the whole time. But if you kept it on the StormX app, you'd be getting 10% paid out weekly. And then on top of that, you'd be getting you'd be getting crypto cash back on your purchases at places like Amazon and eBay and I think Expedia, Nike, Adidas. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's hundreds of partnerships that this company has. I even saw one that was like 20% crypto cash back today when I was looking on the app for some indoor gardening. But they've got so many different partnerships, along with the deal that they signed with the Portland Trailblazers to be on the jersey and on the floor for the next 5 years. This is a project that I really like. We were worried about the young team in the beginning, but they've come a long way, and they've done some really great things. And I'm really high on this project. And I think, not financial advice, but if you're buying StormX, you ought to be putting it on the app, getting your 10%, and then they have crypto multipliers. I mean, if you just have 31,000 on the StormX app, you get 1.5 times your crypto cash back. That means if you wanted an indoor garden, you just turn that crypto cash back from 20% into 30%. So even in a down market, you're making your money back by using a token like StormX. So the utility pays for itself. So I'm a big fan of this project, and I think once they get themselves listed on something like Coinbase or crypto.com or anything like that, you're going to see this thing skyrocket because utility is just there.
And you want to remind the viewers it's a low cap, so it doesn't take as much. And when you're trying to flip something in a couple weeks, if BTC is indeed, if we are in an upward trend and we're going into the mid to high 40s, Storm is going to follow, and it's going to be an easy flip for you. Now, it is predicated, I think Storm is one of those that does fall hard when BTC falls. So I think if you get profits in the next 3 to 4 to 5 days, and if you consider it a real flip, you might want to consider taking it.
Right.
Just my advice, because it could fall quickly if BTC retracts. But I think right now it's looking pretty good for sure. So I
great time.
agree with you. Storm is an excellent choice.
Advice, but this would be a great time to buy up some StormX at what, $0.0165 and stack that into that app. And then if you get some sort of a pump, and you can always take it out and take your profits. But at the same time, you could, at these prices, I mean, how much lower could it go than 165 million as a market cap, especially with all the partnerships that they have. So I think this is, even from this point, StormX might be even a long-term hold.
I just want to, yeah, I think so. I think for me, I like your choice. I kind of like StormX long term. I think once they do get in on exchanges, once people become more aware of them, and they get a bigger community, I think that's when you're going to see it soar. I know we took in the draft. For me, I'm liking StormX actually more in a couple years than I like it now. But I do like your take tonight because of the low market cap. And we got to remind the viewers, low market caps are easier to move. So you
That's
can
it.
easily get 10%. You know,
Mhm.
we got a lot of things that got 10% today, but something like StormX can go up 10% on sideways action. I did want to mention one thing about Voyager. A lot of new tokens this week, and I like what Steve is doing. I like the progress. Great sign. One of the ones that they got up, Gala Games. You
Great
know,
call.
I think gaming, we talked about this, is huge. It's one of the big gainers of today, up 22.8%. That's nice. So if you bought Gala yesterday, congratulations. But actually just hit 23 as we were speaking. So
Or if
um,
you bought it when we told you to flip it and you've been holding it this entire time like a diamond in a cover, then you
yeah.
you're there. Take your profits.
But I think in general, and I know Coinbase has also had a lot of projects. It's good for these projects to be available easily. As much as people take pride on going on the exchanges, the gas fees do really scare a lot of people off. And there have been some scams, there have been some phishing scams, and some people are just not comfortable putting tons and tons of their money into wallets. Um,
Yeah.
so I do think, getting these tokens on exchanges is a good thing for crypto. I really do, because a lot of people start on exchanges. Yes, they do have wallets,
Mhm.
um, but I think it's a great thing that we're getting more and more of these tokens easily available where you don't have to pay a gas fee. I think that's great for crypto, because the gas fee is a joke, and I hopefully in the future that's gone. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a day soon where whatever coin you want, you can get it. As long as it's a legitimate project, whatever coin you want, you can get it. You don't have to pay gas fees. You don't have to go on exchanges. You don't have to buy ETH and take it to a wallet and lose some of your ETH. You don't have to get a BNB token, which you don't want to hold. And it's part of the game, but
Get your
but
money
I
locked
do
up
think
for
the
2 or 3
easier,
weeks.
yeah, I think the easier it is to buy these tokens, the more people you're going to get in, and I think that's a good thing for crypto. Um, that's just my take. Is the more the more easy it is for the average person to get in, and buy this stuff. I think the better we're going to be. So that's
And I
I'm really
totally agree
glad.
with you. And I think we've talked about it before, the comfort and familiarity of these exchanges. It looks a lot like your banking app. It acts a lot like your banking app, except now you don't need to go into the bank and talk to somebody about purchasing assets or getting high yield accounts or anything like that. You can just go ahead and grab what you need. And so it's that familiarity, that comfort, and then once you start learning, it's that ease of access to these great projects. I mean, to things like Polkadot where you're getting 12%. It's incredible. But I do agree with you. I think that exchanges will be the way, and I think that you pointed out a great point too. They will lend a lot of legitimacy to these projects, and it will get people off of these other exchanges where they've got to tether up and maybe take a chance on, Iron Finance or something like that. That rug pulled Mark Cuban or whatever happened with him. So I think that's they're going to play an important role, and I think places like Voyager or exchanges like Voyager are going to lead the way.
Yeah. And so next week, depending on how things go, we hold above 41. We may be finally having that second draft that we've been talking about for the last few weeks. I think it's almost could have done it tonight. I think we wanted to wait just to make sure this holds, but it might be time, because you don't want to wait too long, because you wait too long, you miss too much of the pump, then you miss out on a lot of the fun.
We
So
have
we'll see. We might have an exciting show coming up for you guys next week. For Mr. FOMO, this is AZ Crypto. Please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Have a great weekend. We will see you later.
See you.